Welcome everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Nick. I thought I had a slide for that. There it is. I am the Technical Training and Development Director here at Miva. I help agencies and developers leverage the Miva ecosystem as best they can. Today, we're talking about more of a store owner type thing and also a developer thing. We're going to talk about a little bit of update to the user interface that Kiefer and Rick discussed in their keynote. We're going to go into an introduction of what theme editor is, kind of a little bit more detail about how it's going to be used, talk about the different components of it, the landing page of it, the different modes, and then just overall page builder integration with your store. So I hope that everyone is excited and ready to go. You guys saw this during the keynote. It's a way of us changing the way that people use Miva. As you know, Page Builder is a vital part of going forward. We're adding more and more features to it and functionality to it. So we want to make that a forefront. With our theme editor, we're able to now redesign the user interface section to kind of promote that a little bit more. Use my handy dandy laser. All the new content Page Builder section will be available both up in here. The theme editor section will be available here and in another place, which I'll show you here shortly. But there was really just a disconnect between global theme styling and Page Builder and regular template. So this user interface really makes it a seamless integration with Page Builder and kind of brings it to the forefront. And so that was the purpose of this next little kind of redesign here to push that Page Builder forward, because theme editor is really going to change the way that everybody uses it. Let's talk a little bit about theme editor before we go into Page Builder itself. I know that nobody really knows about what theme editor is or what it can do, but it is going to be a very, very crucial part of updating your store stuff. So before this next update, or currently, I guess in the world of Miva today, when you're managing your styles or you're managing any sort of style within your store, you have to go and navigate through your CSS files and find that CSS and maybe go edit that, or if you want a certain heading to look a certain way, you're going to need to go into that Flex component and go change that heading to do that. And then sometimes your style doesn't even work within there, and you have to go into the MMX customizations and add some custom style for that to work. So right now, the overall individual styling and global styling has a little bit of a disconnect in Page Builder. And so with Theme Editor, we solve these challenges by creating a centralized tool for managing your global styles. It bridges the gap between the theme customization and also your Page Builder edits, because there's a individual edit ability and then a global edit ability. And it really just will reduce the time updating and creating new pages within Page Builder. Theme Editor has two access points. As I mentioned before, we've got the one that's on the user interface page, where when you go into that, you'll go directly to the theme editor landing page. But also when you're in Page Builder, there will be a little new icon down here that looks like a little page edit button. And when you push that button, you will go into the main landing page. So it just allows for quick access, convenient access, and it allows you to we'll talk about more of these modes in a moment, but it allows you to see those updates in live action when you're using the theme editor, rather than having to go into each individual component to do those kind of things. Excuse me. One last thing that's added with this theme editor that is also going to be integrated with Page Builder is a brand new font library that we'll be adding to the resources section. So we always have had our CSS resources, our JavaScript resources, and our resources groups. Now we're going to be adding this fonts section here. Essentially with this, you'll be able to add any sort of font you want. You can even have a font that you create and host it on your server locally, and put it in here. You could have a bunch of Google fonts and you can choose whatever sizes you want. This one has thin 100, normal 400, and it's a sans serif. And so what this does is this, when you add these fonts, it adds them to your theme library, to your theme editor, so that when you're creating these themes, you can just choose whatever font you want. It's already preloaded in there. And so this is how this type of integration will complete the cycle for all of editing within, theme editing within Page Builder. There will be preloaded fonts when we launch this, but it will take some setup. So when we launch Theme Editor, there will only be one component that is integrated with it at launch, and that is going to be the category list component, which is not launched yet. And actually, I think the product display component will be linked to that as well. But if you want to use those two components, you have to go and you have to set up your themes. So you go to themes, you set up all your themes for all your headings that you're going to be using and things like that. And then once those are set up, you can then use Theme Editor in conjunction with those two Flex components. Like I said, to start off, we're just adding those two. The goal is to completely integrate Shadow's framework with Theme Editor. So Theme Editor will allow you to tie classes to your styles. And so the goal is to create a theme and have the classes linked to the Shadows classes and replace some of those CSS rules that are currently in the default Shadows CSS files. And it will be all controlled through Theme Editor, so you'll have a global area where you control your theme for your framework, and then you can also control the theme for Page Builder. So it's all combined into one instead of kind of being these separate entities all around. That is why all of these things are important. Okay, I'm trying to think of what I missed there. I think we're good with that one. All right, so I know we're talking a lot about Theme Editor here and not a lot about Page Builder, but I think what the important thing to take from this is that Theme Editor really completes the non-technical user cycle for Page Builder. You know, there's always been that disconnect. So once Theme Editor is launched, it will make that kind of cycle easier for everybody to make updates and things like that. So when you first open up Theme Editor, you'll arrive at the landing page. The page serves as like a central hub or theme customization, making it easier to manage and update your settings. So this is the initial landing page here. It will come blank when you have it. There won't be any themes set up, but you'll be able to create typography themes, button themes, and layout themes. And layout is the different breakpoints for each of your styles. This area will allow you to see any updates you make to any of those themes in real time in a global aspect. So if I went in here and I updated the font for this heading 6, once I updated it, I would see that in a global way of all of those type of updates. It's really easy to manage your global settings within here or to kind of update these type of things. From a developer standpoint, all of these settings here are exportable and importable using XML. So upon launch, we'll have documentation on how to create these XML files, but I would imagine that developers will create a default XML file with some default maybe Shadows themes or something like that. Excuse me. And then once they get a new client, they can just go ahead and import this in there, change a couple things here and there, and they've got their theme already in there. So once you get that initial kind of default template set up, it will be really easy to add these type of things going forward. Once you get inside the Theme Editor, there's two different modes. As I mentioned before, we've got this one where it's more of a global, you can edit individual global themes in real-time preview. And then you have this mode over here, which is very similar to your current Page Builder mode. There are some limitations on what it does as far as compared to the normal Page Builder view. Like for example, you only have a set amount of breakpoints. Whatever you set in your breakpoints theme, you'll have those options up here. But what this really helps out with, and you'll have the option to change pages within here, which you don't have within Page Builder. Because you're not editing anything in here, you're just viewing it. And what this is so great about is that you can go in and you can change one of these global settings and then go on your storefront page and make sure that your storefront page is still good, and go to your product page and make sure your product page is still good, and go check those things in real time and update those things in real time and view them on your site rather than viewing just kind of the global layout of how it works. So there's two different views of it, really empowering you to kind of see what those updates are and manage those updates super, super efficiently and easily. And this one ends at 1:45. 5 minutes? All right. I'm 55. Oh, 55. All right, I'm going to slow down a little bit and go a little bit slower. I'm already on my last slide. Okay. So the integration between Page Builder and Theme Editor is where the power of these tools are really going to come together, and you're going to be able to create really, really efficient store designs and easily updating them. Before, theme customizations and page layouts were different tasks, right? Like you could go create a page and then you need to go update the theme. That was more of a developer thing, is you had to go and you had to create this new CSS. And with Theme Editor and with the fonts library, now all that's going to be all cohesive and all put together in one place. So if we went through an example, a real world example, let's say you wanted to go change the buttons across your entire store, instead of manually going into your entire store and your Flex components, right? Instead of manually going into the CSS and going and updating that file and going and adding some sort of CSS to the MMX customizations, once Theme Editor comes out, all you're really going to do is go into Theme Editor, update that, and then if you had a specific one that you needed to go to, you can go directly to that Flex component, and you can overwrite that setting if you wanted to. And so it's just going to be a quicker and easier process to do those type of things. From a development standpoint as well, developers, when they're creating their Flex components, they will have to update or add this theme editor functionality into their components. So if you do have a component created by a developer or you created your own, there will be a need to go back and update that in order to integrate it correctly. That being said, you also have control over what you want to be updated in your component. So as a developer, you can test, there will be a property on the Flex component that will allow you to say whether or not you want your customer to use a theme editor or not. Because if you have this component that if somebody's going in there and they're changing the fonts or changing the font size, it's going to break everything. The layout's not going to be good. So you don't want them to go change that. So there will be settings to limit that access as well. So I would say at launch of Theme Editor, it's going to be a developer-heavy feature to start off with until we start to integrate it with all of our Flex components, and they start to integrate it with their Flex, developers start to integrate it with their Flex components. Once that process happens and finishes, the front-end merchants are really, really going to see the power of Theme Editor. You might not see it right off the launch. It's kind of like I compare it to our multi-domain. We came out with multi-domain support last year, and it was a hot topic, and everybody wanted it. But not until recently we've really seen an uptick in people actually implementing it. It's a really super easy to implement, and more stores are implementing it because they let it run through its cycle and understood it a little bit more. So that might be the case with this, but as a developer, this is something that you should really look into and try to implement into your Flex components when you're creating your Flex components. And that's all I have. I am really fast, but I am happy to help answer any questions about Page Builder that anybody has. Yes?
Thank you, Nick. You mentioned being able to upload your own fonts.
Yes.
So my understanding is that it'll come with a suite of fonts that are readily available for anyone to use, and then you can add your specific fonts. Are there any guidelines for, I'm presuming that the developers or the accounts would be responsible for applying the correct license to use the additional fonts that aren't free?
Yeah, so that's up to you. I mean, at the end of the day, so what the font library is once you click the add, let's actually go back so we can take it off a bit. Once you go and you click the add font, I should have shown the add font dialog. But you'll have the add font dialog show up. You'll be able to give it a name, and there's an input in there to add a script. Or a link or something like that. And essentially all this is doing is it's outputting that script. So like if you think about how you add a Google font, you go to Google Fonts, you pick out your font, you pick out your sizes, and then it's going to give you this script tag that you go to put on your website. And now in your CSS, you can go put whatever kind of reference you want to that. So essentially that's what we're doing. So if you have your own custom font that, you bought, you would just upload it to your server, you put the link to it on there, and that's how that kind of feature would work. But you're right, we will be adding a number of default fonts. They'll probably be the same ones that are default to Shadows right now. Those are all Google fonts anyways. And so there will be Google fonts in here. But really at the end of the day, all this is just some settings that you type out and then we just plop that information on the page. So one good example of something to think about when you're adding these fonts coming up here is that the dialog, whoa, I did something up here. That's okay, we're not using it anymore. The dialog, when you open it up, it allows you to say, okay, this font contains a 100, 200, 300, all these different sizes, right? If you put a script tag from Google that only has the 100 font in there, all those options are going to be available when someone is going to edit it. They're going to be like, oh, I have this font, I have all these different sizes because when I created the font in the font library, I checked them all. But your font really doesn't have those sizes because you only pulled the 100 from Google. So it's up to you to make sure that those, as a developer or whoever's adding the font, to make sure that those settings kind of match up so that when you're in theme editor, it's really true to what you have. That's just kind of a side note on the font library of how that's going to work. But yeah, at the end of the day, like I said, it's just outputting the settings that you type into the dialog and then your theme editor is taking those settings and letting you choose from those options. Yes. No, you go first. He went for me, but we're gonna go for you.
So I'm sorry, I came in a little late.
Okay.
I apologize at first. You may have mentioned this already, but how difficult or what's going to be involved in implementing this kind of thing on existing sites, even if they're already running Shadows and themes have already been built and you've done all this custom CSS and all that kind of stuff?
So when we launch Theme Editor, just like anything, it's not going to do anything, right?
Right.
You could go into Theme Editor and put in a million styles and set up a million things, and nothing is going to work out of the box unless, like I said, the only one that's going to attach that are the new Flex components that we'll be introducing when we introduce Theme Editor. So essentially, nothing's going to happen. As far as the integration goes, this Theme Editor. When you create the themes from a developer standpoint, when these things are done, it adds a structure, just like an instance template, like our Flex component instance structure or our L.settings product structure. It's going to add a theme structure that will have theme : font : whatever the code is for that font, right? And so as a developer, if you're creating a Flex component or if you're even just editing page templates, you can go in and you can say, okay, I'm going to pull in this theme. It'll come with an item tag as well, kind of like our resources where you put a JavaScript resource item tag and it's going to pull in that. You're going to be able to put a theme editor tag and it's going to pull in that theme and it's just going to output the CSS right there on the page. So it's going to say H1 is font family Arial because that's what we have in our theme one, and it's just going to output it on the page. So as long as you output that, you can remove all that extra CSS and just output that on the page. That's one way to integrate it. And another way is through the page builder integration. And as I mentioned, that's going to take some updates to the actual Flex components because the Flex component is built using that flex.json file where you add all the properties in there. And on these properties, you'll be able to say, hey, this property can be controlled by theme editor, and you put in the property for that. And then now once you upload the Flex component, you have those options within your Flex component. And so that will be another way to integrate it. So there will be some developer work in order to do that. We're working on documentation right now. There'll be plenty of documentation specifically for this type of thing, as far as like examples, real world use cases, and we'll even put an example Flex component up there of how this type of thing integrates as well. So.
Okay. So is everything outputted on every individual page, or like some of the things, like you said, it'll spit it on the page. It doesn't become a global.
Yeah. So that is one thing that we. So.
I mean, I'm sorry. I know it does happen globally the way you described it, but is it only global because it automatically adds it to every page in the instance of when you're setting it up from the beginning? But in the case you just mentioned.
I understand where you're coming from, and I do understand where you're coming from, and so I'll mention this right off the bat is that this initial launch was we wanted to make sure that we get as much of the functionality as we could in there, and during. We have done a lot of optimization and speed testing, and we're going to continue to do that. But at initial launch, we focused on getting the content in there. And so what is going to happen? Yes, all that CSS is going to be dumped right onto the page. However, like I said, we're going to continue doing optimization techniques and see which ways work best as far as what information gets added and what information doesn't get added, so you don't have this page with just this blob of CSS just all over the place, right? So yes, we have some advancements that we will be doing as time goes on as far as optimization of those type of things go. But like to answer your question, yeah, like it will be outputted in a global sense, and it will be on every page as far as that goes. And I'm not exactly sure what the limitations are as far as like where it's going to be, where you're going to have ability to exclude it yet. I actually didn't even have a full build before I did this, so I used a half a build. We should be having a full build coming up here next week. If anybody has Docker and would like to look at this, you can download the agency Docker right now, and there's a version of theme editor in there, font library is in there as well, and you can download this locally and take a look at it yourself. So if anybody wants to do that, you can reach out to me and I can get you a developer license for that, and we can work that out as well.
I'm sorry, I think I had one more follow-up question to that too, was as far as keeping stores updated and kind of bringing everybody up to this new thing, you know, because as we've seen with like the content sections,
Totally,
moving into the theme components, moving into flex components, now moving into things like this.
Yes.
Is it going to be? I mean, at some point, the other stuff's going to kind of fall away, and is it going to be something we should really encourage store owners to?
100%. So if they're not using Page Builder now, if they're not using the version 2 of Shadows, which was, I think, version 10 came out when the second version of Shadows. If they're not using Page Builder now, they should start using Page Builder. It's not going to be an extra hurdle to get theme components really installed with Page Builder if they're already using it. But if they're not, yeah, there's going to be some kind of there's going to be those extra steps to do it. So getting them on Page Builder as soon as you can. There's going to be an easy transition for people using Page Builder to theme editor. That's our goal. Our goal is to integrate Shadows very easily with theme editor without a whole bunch of clicks, without making all these themes. That's not going to come off the bat, but it will come later on. And that's, like I said, that's the goal. One of the main things, as I mentioned before, is linking up those classes with whatever theme that we're creating for Shadows. So I think that the answer to your question is, if your clients are not using Page Builder now, or if you're a store not using Page Builder now, you should absolutely get it integrated as soon as you can, even if it's on just one page, because one, our flex components that we're introducing are going to be amazing. We have a product display flex component that's really good. And then two, you can create your own flex components that are going to be even better, and you need this stuff to do it. So,
Great, thank you.
Okay.